Good morning, brothers and sisters. How's everybody doing this morning? So today, I want to preach on the gospel message from today. I want to talk about stewardship. What is stewardship? It's a big church word that we use, but do we understand what it really is? Do we understand what stewardship is? We need to have a biblical understanding of stewardship. So for the next couple weeks, we're going to talk about stewardship. What is it to be a biblical steward? Is it about giving to the church budget? Because to me, that's not it at all. If that's what we're focused on in stewardship, we've missed the point. We missed what Jesus was saying to us. If you've ever had a pastor get up and say, give more to the budget, give more to the budget, they've missed the point as well. The point is to take the gifts that God has given you and use them to love and serve the Lord. It's about everything He's given us. It's a relationship. I have another pastor friend that describes it as a lifestyle. That to really be a steward of what God's given us is a lifestyle. I would tell you it's one of those things that's a pillar of the Christian faith. It's what makes us Christians. Is that it's not about what we've been gifted for us to hold on to, it's about what we can give away. So first we need to have this understanding. What has God given us? What has He given us? Everything. Not just a little. He's given us everything in abundance. If you wake up tomorrow, that's a gift from God. Everything in your life comes from the Lord. Everything is a gift. He is asking you to steward that gift, to take care of it, to spend it wisely. That's everything in our lives. You begin to understand why defining it as a lifestyle is not a stretch. Jesus explains it this way in this parable. He says, "For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted them his property." See, this section right here, we're already getting hung up on it. We think the money that we make, the gifts we have in our lives, that they're ours. They don't belong to you. They never have. They belong to God. They're His. He's giving them to you because He trusts you. It's a trusting relationship. He says, I trust my people. I'm going to bless them. And I'm not going to bless them a little bit. I'm going to bless them in abundance. I'm going to give you a lot because I want you to be able to give it away to my people. And so He says, the one He gave 5 talents. Another He gave 2. And lastly, He gave a guy 1. Then he went away. So what is a talent? We think about it back in this time. Jesus is describing talents. It'd usually be some sort of silver. But we need to understand how much a talent was. A talent back then was equal to 20 years' wages. So 20 years of your salary, God's going to give you today. That's the minimum He's giving away. To the guy He gives 5 talents, He says, I trust you this much, that I'm going to give you 100 years worth of wages. That's more than you're ever going to see in your lifetime. I'm going to give it to you right now because I trust you, and I know you have the gifts to take care of what's mine. Then I'm going to go away. Isn't that a story of trust? If I were to give you guys 100 years' wages and then walk away and just hope for the best, is that trust? They don't have to do anything right and just with it. They could go out like the prodigal son and blow it all. But the master trusts him that much. And so he gives these talents away, and he leaves. To the one that he gave 5 talents, he went and traded with them and made 5 more. To the one he gave 2 talents, he went and doubled it. But then we have our guy with 1 talent. He wasn't willing to do anything with it. He was so fearful of losing that 1 talent that he went and dug a hole in the ground and hid what God had given him. We all know some 1-talent people. Of all these people, we know the 1-talent people, right? They stand out in a crowd. You know that they've been blessed with gifts far beyond more people than we can imagine. But they're so scared of sharing those gifts for the possibility of losing them, they'd rather go bury it, hide it, because at least they'll still have that. I think the master's response is pretty telling. He comes back and he says, it's time to settle accounts. We're going to look at what you've done with what I gave you. So I think the guy with 1 talent was so worried, but he didn't really think the master was coming back. He didn't know when that was going to happen. But he comes back to settle accounts. He who had received 5 talents is the first one to come forward. And he says, look, I've doubled what you've given me. I have 10. Master, here you delivered me 5. I've doubled it. I have 5 more. I have 10. I have 200 years worth of wages right here. And I'm giving it back to you. Because it's yours, not mine. Master answers back, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. You have done well with what I've given you. I'm going to give you more. I'm going to keep blessing you in abundance. Why? Because I know I can trust you. I know you're not going to ruin what I've given you. I know that you're going to keep stewarding what I've gifted you. Here's more. The guy with 2 talents comes forward, and the same thing happens. He presents his 2 talents and says, here, I have 2 more. And again, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. I will gift you even more. Again, we're working in abundance here. It's not a scarcity thing. We have more than we need. We're going to keep setting you over much. But then the guy with 1 talent. Master, I knew you were a hard man. I feared you so much and feared losing what you had given me. I was afraid, and I went and hid what you gave me in the ground. See, brothers and sisters, fear is the opposite of faith. Where fear exists, there is no faith. If we're going to go hide our talents in the ground, we've already lost. I will tell you, it is healthy to fear God. We need to fear and love God because He is the God that gives us an abundance. And I think Jesus is breaking down what it means to fear and love God in this passage as much as He's teaching about stewardship. Because how does the master answer the servant with 1 talent? He says, you wicked and slothful servant. You know that I require much, that I want much. What have you done with it? You could have at least invested my money. You could have at least done that. I would have at least got the interest. But what have you done? You hid it so that the whole world didn't even know it was there. And what is the punishment for that? Take what he has, give it to the one I can trust. Give it to that one. I can trust him. For everyone who has been given will be given in abundance, but from the one who has nothing, that doesn't want to use his talents to serve, bless, and love me, I'm going to take even more. because you're not worthy of my trust. You're not worthy of the gifts that I'm giving you. If we're going to hide our talents from the Lord, if we're not going to serve him, we're not worthy of him blessing us more. It's that simple. And what can we do? At least the bare minimum. That's what the guy with one talent didn't do. The bare minimum would have been to invest his money in the bank, let it accrue interest, and at least have something to show. So how does that work in our lives? I'm telling you right now, you've all been gifted in abundance in different ways. You notice that in this passage, Jesus never says God gifts in the same way. Everybody gets 5 talents. But you've all been blessed in abundance. God's love, grace, and mercy. Every one of you. What's the bare minimum you can do with that? Are you going to go hide that? Keep it to yourself? Bury it in the ground? Well, Jesus answers what happens when we do that. If you're even doing the bare minimum with what he gave you, it means that it's a requirement to shine Jesus' light in this broken world. That's the bare minimum. And he cast the worthless servant out into the darkness. And this last line is a reference to hell. In that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, he's referencing hell. This is as much a salvation parable as it is a stewardship parable. He's saying if you're going to do nothing with the gifts that I've given you, if you're going to reject them, you're going to bury them in the ground, there's a place for you. I will take what I gave you, and I will let you go to the place of darkness where there's a weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's how important stewardship is to our God. That's how important using what he's given you is to him. I'll tell you guys a beautiful story. I know a guy that's 90 years old. One of the most beautiful men I've ever met in my life. He sat down with me at lunch one day, and he says, Pastor, he says, I don't know if you knew this, but I always wanted to be a pastor. He's like, in fact, I went to school to be a pastor. And I realized very quickly in schooling, this was not the gift God had given me. This wasn't my talent. And he said, but what I did realize is God had given me a different talent. He had given me a talent for business. He's a very successful businessman. I'm sure he makes a lot more money than I ever will. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess that. And he says, God gave me this ability to run my business and make money. And he goes, so I knew that was my talent. And he's like, I've made it my life's goal to make as much money as I can so I can give it back to God's people. He's like, that's how the Lord has called me to serve him. It's beautiful. Here's a guy that wanted to be a pastor, wanted to share the good news of Christ, but knew that's not what he was given. We're all given different things. I say it all the time. You're all different. You're all beautiful in your own way, but you have been given gifts to serve the Lord. Some financial, some spiritual gifts. The greatest gift that you have is your time. What time are you spending to serve the Lord? One of my favorite sayings is, show me where you spend your time, I'll show you what you love. Because it's true every time. If you spend your time serving the Lord, he knows you love him. It becomes apparent really quick. You're doubling your talents every time you do it. It's just as important as the financial resources he's given you, is where do you spend your time? Where is your heart? That's why it's a relationship issue to me. Where's your heart? if my heart's focused on the things God has given me and giving those away and stewarding those as He's called me to do, am I going to spend time with Him? Yeah, because I love Him. It's my way to give that back. Which servant do we want to be? I say this full well knowing that throughout our lives we're different servants as we go. There are times on our journey with Christ that we behave like the one-talent servant. Every single one of us is guilty, myself included. But which servant do we want to be? If it's a lifestyle choice, and we're picking a lifestyle to be the servant with 5 talents that's been blessed beyond all measure, and we're going to double it. We're going to double the blessings He's given us. That's a choice. You can always take what He's given you and multiply it. Or you can bury it. Which choice do you want to make? Which one do you want to be? I tell you, I think that the well done, good and faithful servant, isn't that what we all want to hear? When you meet Jesus face to face, don't you want Him to say that to you? Well done, my good and faithful servant. You did everything I asked of you. I gave you so much in abundance. Well done with what you've done with it. You love me with your whole heart. You spread that to my people. Well done. I know it's what I want to hear when I see Him face to face. And it starts with that relationship, that lifestyle change of seeing how we've been blessed. Seeing those talents that He's brought into our lives, because He doesn't gift us in scarcity. He won't do that. There is a point in your life, there is a gift that He's given you. He didn't give you in scarcity. You're not going to run out. I promise. I have another friend that he's another very successful businessman. And he has a saying, I keep trying to give it away, and God keeps trying to shovel it in. I keep trying. He's like, I'm trying to outgive God. I can't do it. He's like, for me, it's money. He's like, for you, it's probably something else. But for me, it's money. And I keep trying to give it all away. But then God just keeps backing up the truck and saying, I got more for you. Because He trusts Him. If you have a gift to serve God, don't be afraid that you're going to run out. He will keep gifting you. You can't outgive Him. Maybe your gift is a musical one. Guess what? You can't outgive God. Maybe your gift is a spiritual one for teaching, for loving God's people. You can't outgive Him. It doesn't matter what your gift is. You can't do it. But we should be people that try. Why? Because we want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. What greater gift can we be given on this earth than to meet our Maker face to face and have Him say, well done to us? Lord, I ask You to strengthen this congregation. This congregation is one of 10 talents. You have blessed our congregation and our church so much. We're so grateful. May You strengthen and encourage us to use that to glorify You, to worship You, to bring more people to hear about how they can do the same. May You look upon all of Your people here at Martin Luther and say, well done, my good and faithful servants. Amen.